Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we are diving into a brand new explainer that unpacks a truly eye-opening investigative documentary. It's all about a hidden health scandal they call the pink illusion. And honestly, the craziest part about this, the subject of this entire investigation might literally be sitting right inside your refrigerator right now. We're going to break down the science, the shady corporate strategies, and the wild history behind processed meats. So let's jump right in and see what they uncovered. Okay, picture this. Think about the last time you saw a TV commercial for ham. It's almost always set in this rustic, beautiful countryside, right? You've got a happy family sitting down to a farmhouse meal. And the meat itself, it's always this vibrant, perfectly uniform pink. But the documentary asks a really simple, yet totally profound question. Why exactly does supermarket ham look like that? If it's really as natural as those sunny commercials suggest, shouldn't it just look like, well, regular cooked pork? Well, it turns out that perfect pink is basically a magic trick. The investigation reveals that this pretty color isn't natural at all. It's the direct result of a specific additive called sodium nitrate, or E250. The documentary actually shows how meat producers use these massive machines with dozens of syringes to literally inject lumps of pork with a mixture of salt and this exact chemical. It chemically fixes the color during the cooking process. Without it, the ham would actually be a dull grayish-brown color. And let's be honest, that makes it incredibly difficult to sell to consumers who have been trained to expect that vibrant pink. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so they add a little color, what's the big deal? Well, the documentary highlights a staggering global health classification that completely changes the stakes. Back in 2015, the World Health Organization officially listed processed meats as carcinogenic to humans. Yeah, carcinogenic. This takes us right out of the grocery store aisle and straight into the laboratory, raising some seriously uncomfortable questions about what exactly happens inside our bodies when we eat these chemically treated meats. So let's break down the biology here. The film walks us step by step through the research of toxicologist Professor Theo de Kock, and it all starts simply enough: swallowing processed meat. But once it hits the human gut, this wild chemical mutation kicks off. The nitrites react with the meat proteins and transform into these highly dangerous substances called nitrosamines. And these nitrosamines are bad news. They are known to cause DNA breakages, which can eventually mutate normal cells into precancerous cells right there in the large intestine. To actually put this to the test in the real world, researchers over at Maastricht University focused on a very specific number: 300. That's 300 grams of processed meat, which is roughly equivalent to about 7 slices of ham. They had a student volunteer eat this exact amount every single day for 2 weeks, and the results? Honestly, they were alarming. After just 15 days, the exposure to dangerous nitrosamines inside his body saw a 2 to 3-fold increase. But guys, what's truly staggering here is the speed, just how fast this biological damage can actually happen. The documentary shows these visceral lab results where researchers took digestion byproducts from heavy meat eaters and mixed them with healthy human cells. When those healthy cells are exposed to the nitrosamines, their DNA literally breaks apart, creating what scientists call comet tails when you look at them under a microscope. And the terrifying part? The researchers saw these breakages starting to happen in just 30 minutes. Now, naturally, the meat industry has a defense for all of this. Their go-to argument is that nitrites are an absolute non-negotiable necessity to prevent botulism, which, if you don't know, is a really deadly nervous system bacteria. But the documentary points out that the reality over in Denmark completely tears this industry claim apart. Denmark has a massive, thriving organic meat market that produces processed meats entirely without nitrites. And their track record? 0 cases of botulism caused by processed meat in over 50 years. 0. In fact, the film features an interview with a biochemist who runs Hannegale, which is Denmark's largest organic processed meat plant. He hits the nail on the head, pointing out that with modern slaughterhouse hygiene, botulism really hasn't been a legitimate threat in Western Europe for decades. His stance is incredibly clear. We don't need to stress over a bacteria from 100 years ago. We need to worry about cancer-producing additives today. He suggests that nitrites are kept around for one simple reason: producers are terrified that customers just won't buy brownish-colored ham. So this begs the question, if these health risks have been known for a while, why on earth hasn't anything changed? Well, the documentary shifts gears into full investigative mode and uncovers a decades-long timeline of scientific suppression. Get this. Back in the late 1970s, the US government actually buried a massive 2,000 rat study that linked nitrates to cancer, all after intense industry lobbying. Then, in the 1990s, an independent scientist study linking hot dogs to childhood cancer was aggressively discredited. And jump forward to 2006, you've got lobbyists launching coordinated efforts literally called the IARC Challenge, specifically to alter official cancer classifications. Let's actually rewind and zoom in on that 1990 study by epidemiologist Dr. Susan Preston Martin. When she found a link between childhood leukemia and eating hot dogs, the public reaction was instantaneous. Hot dog sales completely tanked, falling by 8% in just a matter of days. Now, for a multi-billion-dollar food industry, that kind of drop is an absolute code red. It sent them into a total panic, triggering a massive corporate response to protect their bottom line. And right here is where the investigation uncovers a truly shocking corporate connection. At the exact time of this hot dog crisis, the undisputed king of the market was Oscar Mayer. And Oscar Mayer was owned by Kraft Foods. But wait for it. Kraft Foods, up until 2007, was owned by Philip Morris. Yes, the world's second largest tobacco company. So Big Tobacco suddenly owned Big Meat. And they brought their very specific, highly ruthless crisis management playbook straight into the grocery aisle. To really understand that playbook, the documentary shows us this chilling memo dug up from the infamous tobacco documents dating back to 1969. It literally says, "Doubt is our product, since it is the best means of competing with the body of fact that exists in the mind of the general public." Wow. The multinational corporation simply copy-pasted this exact strategy, manufacturing doubt, and used it to aggressively attack and discredit Dr. Preston Martin's research on processed meats. So what does this doubt playbook actually look like in practice? Well, lobbying firms, like multinational business services, went right to work. They scrutinized her independent research for any microscopic flaw they could find. They audited her grants and contracts to put the pressure on. They paid industry-friendly scientists thousands of dollars to write opposing reviews. They even flooded the media with these wild alternative theories. At one point, they famously went on television and suggested, hey, maybe it's not the hot dog causing cancer, maybe it's the mustard. The whole goal wasn't to actually prove her wrong, it was just to throw sand in the gears and gum up the policymaking process. Now, if you're sitting there wondering why these companies would go to such extreme, ridiculous lengths just to protect a single chemical food additive, look no further than this number, $41 billion. According to the documentary, that is the annual revenue of just one single meat giant, Tyson. The sheer financial power protecting these additives is absolutely astronomical. When you're pulling in $41 billion a year, the cost of paying off lobbying firms and friendly scientists is literally just pocket change. And the crazy thing is, this strategy absolutely did not end in the 90s. The film uncovers a leaked internal document from the American Meat Institute, the one they called the IARC Challenge. This document outlines a coordinated, ongoing strategy using those industry-paid scientists to actively manipulate and downgrade the official safety ratings for nitrites set by the International Agency for Research on Cancer. It is a literal, documented effort to rig the global scientific consensus in their favor. And we can see exactly how this systemic capture works even today. Just recently, the California Environmental Protection Agency was considering adding nitrates to their official list of dangerous substances. During the public comment period, 7 official contributions were submitted to help sway the decision. But shockingly, 6 of those 7 comments were from paid food industry lobbyists. They completely overwhelmed the single independent voice. It's a classic strategy, just flood the zone. All of which brings us to a final question that I really want you to chew on today. Based on everything this documentary has uncovered, are the ingredients sitting in your fridge right now shaped by pure public health science, or have they been carefully curated by a multi-billion-dollar industry of doubt? It's definitely a provocative thought about how decades of corporate lobbying might actually be the real recipe behind what ends up on our dinner tables. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And remember, always keep questioning what you see.